They told you love had to be earned, so you tried. You reached out first. You showed up. You planned the dates. You gave more than you got, all in the hope that one day she'd finally choose you. But the more you gave, the more she pulled away. You were told effort meant value. But in the game of attraction, too much effort too soon doesn't signal strength. It screams desperation. Here's the hard truth. No one ever says out loud what's easily gained is rarely valued. And when you make yourself too available, too eager, you become forgettable. Not because you aren't good enough, but because you're no longer a challenge. You've removed the tension. You've eliminated the chase. You've given her no reason to wonder, no room to miss you, no need to lean in. See in her world, attention is everywhere. Her phone is flooded with guys trying to impress her. She's seen charm, she's heard compliments, she's used to men offering everything in the first 5 minutes just to be noticed. But what she doesn't see every day is presence, real grounded masculine energy that doesn't chase approval. The kind of energy that says, I want you, but I don't need you. And that difference is everything. The moment you orbit her instead of building your own world, you lose your gravity. The moment you prove yourself, instead of living your truth, you lose your power. You're no longer the man she wants to explore, you're just the man trying to be enough. This doesn't mean you play games, it means you value yourself enough to stop giving everything away for free. You stop texting her the moment she pulls back. You stop adjusting your entire day just to get a reply. You stop proving and you start embodying. Because attraction isn't about what you say, it's about what your silence says when she expects noise. When you shift from chasing her to choosing yourself, something powerful happens. She starts to wonder where your attention went. She starts to ask why you're no longer performing. And in that space of silence and absence, desire begins to bloom. Not because you manipulated her, but because you finally respected yourself. And that's the paradox. The moment you stop chasing her is the moment she starts chasing you. Machiavelli once wrote, "It is far safer to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." But fear in this context is not about dominance, it's about presence. That unmistakable energy a man carries when he doesn't need validation to feel complete. Presence is the silent force that walks into a room and shifts the atmosphere without ever saying a word. And that kind of presence is what separates the man who attracts effortlessly from the man who performs endlessly. Most men lose themselves the moment they seek approval. They orbit a woman like she's the sun, adjusting their words, their tone, their time, just to gain her attention. But the man who commands presence doesn't move like that. He doesn't beg for love. He doesn't chase admiration. He builds a world so compelling, so full of purpose that she wants to be part of it, without him needing to convince her. You see, women aren't drawn to desperation. They're drawn to gravity. They're not magnetized by the man who's always available, who always says yes, who replies instantly. They're pulled toward the man who has direction, who has stillness, who has an unspoken, I'm already whole energy. Because in a world that constantly screams, the man who moves in silence becomes unforgettable. Presence is power. It's knowing that your value isn't measured by how quickly you respond or how much effort you exert to be liked. It's the calm, quiet confidence of a man who knows his worth and doesn't need to prove it. It's in the way he looks her in the eye and says, I want you here, but I'll never need you to complete me. That sentence, without being spoken, echoes in his actions. He doesn't rush. He doesn't flinch when she pulls back. He doesn't crumble under pressure. Instead, he continues to move forward, focused on his mission, grounded in his purpose, not out of arrogance, but out of self-respect. This is not manipulation. This is transformation. Because when you stop orbiting her and return to your own center, she begins to feel something. She didn't expect curiosity. She starts to wonder about the life you're building without her constant presence. She questions why you're not trying so hard, and that question plants the seed of desire. In the end, presence doesn't chase. It anchors. It pulls. And most of all, it commands. So stop proving. Start embodying. Don't be the man who performs for attention. Be the man who commands it without ever needing to ask. We live in a world where speed is mistaken for strength, where the faster you respond, the more available you seem, and the more available you are, the less you're valued. It's a hard truth. Men who give too much too early don't come across as generous. They come across as hungry. And hunger doesn't attract. It repels. You think sending the good morning text before she wakes up shows effort. You think canceling your plans to see her makes you romantic. You believe always saying yes builds connection. But what you're actually doing is unraveling your own gravity, making yourself predictable, accessible, and easy to dismiss. In the absence of tension, desire quietly dies. The man who constantly gives without restraint isn't signaling depth. He's signaling lack of structure, lack of boundaries, lack of purpose. And women don't chase lack. They chase significance. They chase the man who gives intentionally, not impulsively. The man who doesn't rush to reply, not because he's playing games, but because he's focused, building, moving forward. Restraint is not weakness. It is value control. It's saying, my time matters. My energy is finite, and not everyone gets access to it, especially not for free. When you give all of yourself up front, when you're always available, when you're constantly adjusting your rhythm to hers, you teach her something fatal, that you're not grounded enough in your own life to be scarce. And scarcity isn't about pretending to be busy. It's about actually having a mission so big that not even the most beautiful woman can shake your direction. It's about being a man whose attention is earned, not handed out. Because what's earned is valued. What's handed out is taken for granted. The truth is, women want to feel your absence sometimes, not to be punished, but to remember that your presence is powerful. That when you show up, it means something. And when you don't, it creates space for curiosity. That's where attraction begins to breathe again. So hold back. Not out of fear, but out of strength. Don't give access to every emotion, every minute, every part of your schedule. Give with purpose. Share with clarity. Speak when it matters, and most importantly, wait until you feel it's time, because value is never found in excess. It's found in precision, in mystery, in discipline. You don't become magnetic by overextending. You become magnetic by withholding just enough to leave her wanting more. And that right there is the art of masculine restraint. There's a reason the most unforgettable characters in stories never reveal everything in the first act. The ones we think about long after the movie ends aren't the ones who explain their every thought. They're the ones who left us wondering, and that's the secret. Most men never learn. Mystery isn't just seductive, it's essential. In a world addicted to oversharing, the man who withholds becomes unforgettable. Men often believe that transparency means vulnerability, and vulnerability means connection. So they open the floodgates too early. They share their childhood traumas on the second date. They speak about their goals, fears, past heartbreaks, all in an effort to prove they're genuine. But instead of building intimacy, they accidentally reveal the final chapter before the story has even begun. Here's the brutal truth. What is fully revealed too soon is rarely cherished. Not because it lacks value, but because it feels too easy to obtain. You become a book. She's already finished. There's no more tension, no more chase, no more discovery. And without discovery, there's no desire. Mystery isn't about being cold or deceptive. It's about containing depth. It's about allowing someone to earn access to your inner world piece by piece. Think of yourself as a vault, not a vending machine. What she unlocks over time will feel earned, sacred, and deeply valuable. What you give too freely loses meaning. The man who commands attention isn't loud. He doesn't overshare to fill silence. He listens more than he speaks. He chooses his words not to impress, but to leave a trace of himself behind, a hint, not a flood. And when he walks away from a conversation, he doesn't leave her satisfied. He leaves her curious. This is the power of restraint. the power of letting her think, letting her wonder, letting her feel the gap between what she knows and what she wants to know. And in that gap, attraction grows. Machiavelli understood this well. He said that a man who reveals all his intentions becomes predictable, and predictable men are easy to defeat. But the unreadable man, the man who cannot be decoded at first glance, that is the man who captivates, not because he's trying to hide, but because he values what lies within. So stop explaining yourself to be liked. Start revealing only what matters when it matters. Let your silence speak. Let her lean in, because in that space between what's seen and what's still hidden, that's where desire is born, and that is the art of becoming unforgettable. Most men believe strength is in the reaction. The faster you defend yourself, the louder you speak, the quicker you fix what's broken. But real masculine power isn't reactive. It's not impulsive. It's not emotional chaos, disguised as passion. Real power is restraint, and restraint comes from emotional control. When she pulls away, most men panic. They double text, they ask what's wrong, they spiral. And in doing so, they reveal the very thing that kills attraction, a lack of inner grounding. See, women don't test you to be cruel. They test you to feel something solid, to see if you can hold the frame even when it shakes. They want to know, will you crumble under pressure? Or will you stand rooted when everything feels uncertain? Because if your identity depends on her attention, then you're not leading, you're reacting. You've handed over the reins of your masculinity to her mood. And that doesn't feel safe. It feels unstable. And instability breeds doubt. Machiavelli once said, "The man who cannot govern his passions will soon be governed by others." That isn't just political wisdom, it's relationship truth. If your emotions control you, she will never fully trust you. Because deep down, every woman longs for one thing: a man who can hold the storm, not become it. The man who's in control of himself doesn't flinch when she goes quiet. He doesn't beg for reassurance. He doesn't lose sleep over uncertainty. He returns to his mission. He trains, he builds. He thinks clearly. His center doesn't shift just because she did. And in that stillness, she senses something rare: stability, safety, strength. This doesn't mean you suppress emotions. It means you master them. You feel the jealousy, but you don't let it turn to accusation. You feel the anger, but you don't explode. You feel the rejection, but you don't let it rewrite your worth. You breathe through the fire instead of burning everything down. And here's what makes that so magnetic in a chaotic world. A man who remains composed is like gravity. He anchors, he calms. He commands not by force, but by being the one thing she can't shake. So the next time your heart races, don't react, don't chase, don't explain. Breathe, stay still, return to center. Because the man who can sit inside the storm without needing to silence it is the man she'll never forget. Because emotional control isn't about being cold. It's about being unshakable and unshakable. Men don't beg for love. They become the kind of men love can't help but follow. Most men were taught to be nice, to be understanding, to be endlessly patient in the name of love. They were told that if they showed loyalty, gentleness, and emotional availability, they'd be rewarded with affection. But no one told them the price of sacrificing respect to get it. And that's the cruel reality. When you choose affection over self-respect, you lose both. You think you're being kind when you tolerate the late replies, the broken promises, the subtle digs. She throws your way. You tell yourself she's just going through something, that she'll come around. So you stay silent when she mocks something important to you. You forgive instantly when she flakes on plans. You excuse disrespect, believing that patience makes you stronger, but it doesn't make you noble, it makes you forgettable. Because every time you let a boundary slide, you teach her something dangerous, that your dignity is negotiable. And when there are no lines, there's no gravity, nothing to hold the connection in place. She stops feeling your presence. She starts taking you for granted. Not because she's cruel, but because you trained her to expect no resistance. Machiavelli warned rulers that if you don't command respect, you invite betrayal. In relationships, betrayal doesn't always show up as cheating. It shows up in the slow erosion of trust. It shows up when your time is disrespected, when your values are mocked, when your standards are ignored, and worst of all, when you stay silent through it all. Respect isn't earned by being passive. It's earned by being clear, calm but firm, grounded but unwavering. The man who can say, "That's not okay with me," without raising his voice, he creates trust. He creates structure. And structure, especially in today's emotionally chaotic dating culture, is irresistible. Because here's what most men miss. She doesn't test you because she's toxic. She tests you because she's searching for something real, something solid, something she can lean into. And if every time she pushes you bend, she learns she can't trust you to lead. So stop trying to avoid conflict. Stop trading your standards for temporary closeness. If she cancels again, don't beg for another plan. Let her make the next move. If she mocks your purpose, look her in the eye and say, "I don't joke about the things that define me." That's not arrogance, that's self-respect. And respect, once earned, creates a kind of love that lasts. Because in the end, the man she stays for is not the one who pleases her, but the one who never forgets who he is. Every great downfall begins the same way, with a man trading pieces of himself for the illusion of connection. It doesn't start with chains. It starts with compromise. He gives up an hour of his routine, then a habit he once loved, then a goal he promised himself he'd never delay, and all in the name of closeness, of keeping her happy, of being the good man. But slowly, without noticing, he gives away his throne and the kingdom crumbles. A man's sovereignty is his mission, his sense of direction, purpose, and inner authority. It is the force that shapes his identity and commands respect without explanation. And once it's traded away to preserve peace in a relationship, the attraction begins to die, not just in her eyes, but in his own. He stops being who he was when she first admired him, a man on fire. A man who didn't need her but chose her from a place of wholeness. You see, no woman, no matter how much she loves you, wants to be the center of your world. She wants to stand beside a man who has won. The moment she becomes the mission, she feels it. Not as security, but as pressure, and pressure doesn't make her feel chosen. It makes her feel trapped. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must always rule his domain. If he does not, someone else will. As a man, your domain is your time, your habits, your focus, your fire. And if you hand that away, even out of love, you're no longer leading, you're orbiting. And what once felt like leadership becomes neediness. What once felt like direction becomes dependence, and dependence is the enemy of desire. The sovereign man doesn't reject love. He honors it by never letting it compromise his identity. He continues his morning routine. He protects his gym time. He keeps building, keeps moving even when she asks, "Can't you slow down a little?" Not out of ego, but out of duty, because his mission doesn't wait. And that's precisely what draws her in. When you live like this, you attract a different kind of woman, one who respects your movement and supports your growth. And if she can't rise to meet you, you let her go, not out of spite, but out of strength. Because the man who protects his sovereignty never begs for love. He invites it into his world, but never sacrifices that world to keep it. And that's the paradox of masculine power. The more self-led you are, the more she wants to follow. Most men spend their lives trying to earn love, believing they have to chase it, prove themselves worthy of it, or perform for it. They believe love must be won like a prize, that if they try hard enough, give enough, show enough, someone will finally choose them. But here's the truth that sets powerful men apart. Love that must be chased is never stable, never sacred, and never truly yours. The man who commands love does not beg for attention. He does not ask for validation. He doesn't twist himself into something palatable in hopes of being liked. He walks his path with clarity, with focus, with an energy so grounded that it pulls others toward him without a word. without a performance, because love, when it's real, doesn't need to be chased. It arrives in the presence of someone who's unapologetically himself. Think about it. The moment you stop trying to convince her you're worthy, she begins to wonder why you're no longer trying. That pause, that gap of effort, it's not a loss, it's leverage. Because in that space, she starts to feel your absence. She questions what she overlooked, and in that stillness, you become unforgettable. Not because you're being manipulative, but because you've finally aligned with your deeper truth. You are already complete. Love is no longer something you need to fill a void. It's something you choose to invite into a life that's already full. You're not looking for a savior. You're not offering your soul in exchange for affection. You are whole, and that wholeness becomes your magnetism. Chasing love puts it above you. Commanding love repositions it where it belongs as a reflection of your standard, not the reason for your identity. And when she senses that, when she realizes you'd rather lose her than lose yourself, she sees you with new eyes, not as the man begging to be chosen, but as the man she doesn't want to risk losing. That's when everything changes. She leans in, she invests, she respects. Not because you forced her, but because she feels the difference between a man who performs and a man who leads. So stop asking, how can I make her stay? Instead ask, is she strong enough to walk beside the man I've become? Because love built on chasing is love that collapses, but love built on truth, on presence, on sovereignty, that's the kind that endures. And the man who commands love never needs to demand it. He simply becomes the kind of man love is afraid to lose. Attraction isn't magic. It's not luck. It's not something you stumble into or hope to receive. It's a system one built on timeless Machiavellian truths that separate the man who is forgotten from the man who is never ignored. These truths don't rely on good looks or clever words. They're rooted in essence in how a man sees himself, holds himself, and moves through the world. And when these 5 rules are embodied, women don't just notice, they lean in, they pursue, they respect. 1. Build your value. Let her come to you. Chasing signals lack. A man who chases puts her on the throne and dethrones himself, but a man who builds, who trains, creates, evolves, he becomes gravity. Women orbit men with mission. She needs to see that you're not waiting, you're rising, that your life is already full and she must earn her place in it. 2. Keep some mystery, don't reveal everything. What's uncovered too fast is rarely cherished. You don't owe her your entire story in the first few moments. Share like a fire, slow, controlled, intentional. Let her feel the weight of what she doesn't yet know. Let her wonder. Because curiosity is the seed of attraction and mystery is its oxygen. 3. Master. Your emotions stay calm when others spiral. Your emotional state sets the tone. A man who panics, overreacts, or seeks constant reassurance becomes noise in a world already loud. But the man who stays still, composed, measured, he becomes rare. His presence calms her, his control makes her feel safe, and that calm becomes unforgettable. 4. Draw your lines, expect respect. She tests you to feel something solid. Not because she's cruel, but because she needs to know you won't bend to please her, that you have standards you won't sacrifice. When she crosses the line, you don't argue, you don't plead. You act with calm conviction. Because your boundaries aren't a threat, they're a reflection of your worth. 5. Protect your freedom. Stay sovereign. Your purpose is not a side note. It's the headline. You don't give it up for love. You don't shrink your mission to make her feel comfortable. If she rises to meet you, she stays. If not, you keep walking. Because your fire is non-negotiable. And she didn't fall for a man who bends, she fell for the one who leads. These aren't tricks. They're not games. They're principles. And when you live them, something radical happens. You stop needing to be chosen. You become the one worth choosing. Because true attraction isn't about being liked, it's about being respected, remembered, and impossible to replace. At the end of it all, it's not about playing games, it's not about manipulation, it's about embodiment. The man who chases love begs for it, compromises for it, fades into the background. The moment he gets a taste of affection, he always loses. Not because he wasn't enough, but because he gave up what made him powerful in the first place. His center. You don't become unforgettable by performing. You become unforgettable by standing still while the world around you demands you move. You hold your standard, your discipline, your mission, not with aggression, but with clarity. You don't explain your worth. You don't scream for love. You let your silence, your restraint, your presence do the talking, and that is what makes her lean in. She can't put her finger on it, but she feels it. The way you don't flinch when she pulls away. The way you stay calm in the middle of emotional storms. The way your life continues with or without her validation. That quiet, grounded masculinity. It doesn't beg, it commands. And if she walks away, so be it. Because your worth isn't proven by who stays. It's proven by what you refuse to lose just to keep them. When you choose sovereignty over softness, mission over mood, self-respect over validation, you don't attract every woman, you attract the right one. The one strong enough to walk beside you, not in front of you or behind you. You don't give up your throne to keep someone warm in your kingdom. You build the fire, and if she feels the heat, she stays. If not, you keep building. This is not weakness. It's not loneliness. It's leadership. The world doesn't need more men explaining themselves. It needs more men anchored in themselves. Men who understand that real attraction doesn't come from noise, but from presence, from depth, from the fire that never dims, even in silence. So from this day forward, you stop chasing. You stop giving your crown away for scraps of affection. You walk your path. You lead with conviction. And if someone wants to come with you, they rise. You don't shrink. You are not the man who waits to be chosen. You are the man she can't afford to lose. Not because of charm, but because of power. Not because of performance, but because of presence. Not because of desperation, but because of depth. And when you live like that, love doesn't just arrive, it stays, because it finally found something rare enough to respect. In a culture that glorifies constant communication and quick validation, many men lose themselves trying to win what should never be chased: respect, love, and self-worth. The core message here is simple, yet life-changing. Your power lies not in how much you give, but in what you refuse to give away too easily. Too many men exhaust themselves trying to be chosen, texting first, rearranging their lives for someone who hasn't earned that kind of access, revealing too much too soon, or tolerating behavior that chips away at their identity. But this kind of emotional overexposure doesn't create intimacy. It creates imbalance. It teaches others that your standards are flexible, your time is negotiable, and your energy is free. The truth: you don't need to prove yourself to be loved. You need to build yourself so strongly that love becomes a natural byproduct of who you are, not a reward for how much you sacrifice. The man who holds his boundaries, who speaks with calm clarity, who doesn't react out of fear or scarcity, that man becomes rare. And in today's world, rarity is magnetic. This philosophy isn't about coldness. It's about self-respect, sovereignty, and restraint. It's a reminder that your peace, purpose, and presence are the foundations of lasting relationships, not people-pleasing or emotional dependence. So take this into your life. Stop chasing what you think will complete you. Start protecting what already defines you. Don't beg to be chosen. Build a life so aligned, so purpose-driven that the right people choose to follow. Because in the end, the man who respects himself first will always attract love that respects him back.